Hello and welcome to the local campaign, helping voters make an informed decision for the upcoming municipal election. I'm your host and moderator, Dan Polishchuk. Tonight we have the Kitchener Ward 4 debate. Kitchener's 4th Ward is located in the southeast end of the city. It is bordered by New Dundee Road in the south, Highway 401 on the east, and Homer Watson Boulevard and the Grand River to the north. The eastern boundary runs along the edge of the Dune South and Brigadoon neighborhoods. The council seat for Ward 4 was formerly held by Councillor Yvonne Fernandez. As there is no incumbent running in this election, one of the following candidates will be elected as a new representative for Ward 4. They are as follows: Sasha Sidhu, Florence Carberry, Wes Hill, Julie Geary, and Christy Michaud. Speaking order was drawn before the debate, with each candidate receiving 2 minutes for their opening statements, so we will begin the opening remarks with Sasha Sidhu.
Hello. First off, I would like to thank Rogers and the viewers at home for providing me with this opportunity. My name is Sasha Sidhu. I'm running as a city councillor to represent you for your ward, Ward 4. I grew up here. Kitchener is very close to my heart. I went to Queensbound for middle school and then Forest Heights for high school. Go Trojans. And then along with my family, I moved to South Kitchener to go attend Conestoga College. We've been here since 2004. So it's been almost 15 years. I watched this community grow. It's growing in numbers and diversity. That's when I saw a need. I saw a need for me to join in and put my name forward. I see a need for sustainable, smart development with a vision for the future. This is, if elected, I promise to be accessible, to listen, and to advocate for your needs at City Hall and ask for our fair share. My professional background in real estate gives me a unique perspective into this diverse community. Many of you have shared your concerns with me, which included the need for green space, heritage protection, affordable housing, traffic and safety, and more efficient allocation of taxes. I'm prepared to work with the community developers, planning committee, and in partnership with the community to resolve the pressing issues in our ward. My family has been here for over 45 years. In future, I plan on watching my own family grow up here. I cannot imagine a better place in which to raise a family. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Florence Carberry.
Thank you, Rogers, for the invitation tonight for the Ward 4 debate, and welcome viewers. I'm Florence Carberry. As councillor, my focus will be to represent the residents and do what is in the best interest of Ward 4 community. No matter what my personal opinions are, I listen, encourage, and respect the opinion of others. I have a proven record of working with members of the neighborhood and getting results. My work in mobilizing volunteers and my positive relationship with people is what represents me best. My job as property manager at housing co-ops for 25 years, and my volunteering has provided me with the skills and leadership to work effectively on council. For over 38 years, I have lived in the Dune Pioneer Park with my family. I am very proud of my past community accomplishments, such as helping to bring the Dune Pioneer Park Community Center and Library to a reality in 1989. I know that's a long time ago, but it is indicative of what I can do. I also have been organizing the annual Christmas Miracle Food Hamper project in our community for 35 years. Anyone knows me will confirm that I work hard in meeting the needs of our community. I take the role of councillor of Ward 4 very seriously. I ask residents to direct me on how I can best serve them and be your voice at Kitchener Council. It is important that we have an open line of communication throughout the next 4 years. You tell me what I can do for you, and together we will make it happen. Thank you.
Mr. Wes Hill.
Thank you. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Wes Hill. And like everyone up here, I am hoping to be elected for Ward 4 Council. Ward 4. The ward that raised me is now helping me raise my children. I'm standing here asking for the opportunity to serve on City Council as Ward 4's candidate. Running for political office should never be about career building, status, or fulfilling an egocentric vision or agenda. It should be a call to action. A response to serve one's community, to help ensure its present and future well-being. If elected, I will not be Ward 4, but I will be their voice. It will be about running, or it will not be about running Ward 4, but about amplifying Ward 4's voice, the needs, the wishes, ideas, and concerns of the people of Ward 4 with and before City Council. What do I mean by that? For example, when it comes to budgets, planning, projects, all of the things that the city does, there are people that we pay, consultants, city staff, to help councillors work through all the dilemmas and obstacles to get things done. However, when it comes to neighborhoods and the flow of life within them, well, then it's the residents, the businesses, and all the stakeholders who are the experts. There needs to be an open dialogue between council and their ward. We need to listen for real insight. We need to work harder to ensure that we're a city that pulls out all the stops, maintaining that no one is left behind or struggling alone, feeling invisible. I do not now or will never pretend to know everything, but I will do my best to work as hard as I can for you. Thank you.
Ms. Julie Geary.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Julie Geary, and I want to thank Rogers for hosting and inviting me to this evening's Ward 4 debate. I love and have embraced living, walking, running, and cycling in Doon and the surrounding communities. The last few years, I've been mentoring a large online community group with the intention of bolstering communications and relations between everybody, not just online, but face-to-face. I decided to take one more big step and help community members even more, but from a different venue, from City Hall. I am a small business owner who saw a need to connect community members. In 2017, a community member approached me and they said, I want to meet my neighbors. How do you do that? Well, you take the platform that you have and you work to bring that into reality with everybody face to face. I organized our first community meet and mingle, which brought together 350 people in the community. People from every walk of life. Everybody came out and had a chance to communicate what their thoughts and feelings were in person. In 2018, we had our second event with over 450 people. Next year, we hope to make it bigger, just to give people an opportunity to come out and meet who their neighbors are, which fosters a sense of community, which is important for everybody, a sense of belonging. I had concerns about the safety of an intersection. I expressed my concerns to the city, and a stop sign was installed. I have done numerous things and had many conversations in the neighborhood. I've worked on many community events and encouraged neighbors to create their community events, to bring everybody into the outdoors and have real person conversations. I look forward to being your voice at City Hall and to continue fostering community growth and prosperity. Thank you.
And Ms. Christine Michaud.
Hello everyone, my name is Christine Michaud and I am delighted to be here today, and I would like to thank Rogers for hosting the municipal debates. I'm a lifelong resident of Kitchener and have been proud to call Ward 4 my home for over 23 years. I'm experienced in communications and public relations with post-secondary education and journalism. I'm a former features editor at the Kitchener Record, where I worked for 26 years. I've volunteered on many committees over the years, including City of Kitchener Economic Development Advisory Council, the Downtown Action Advisory Council, KW Oktoberfest, Centre in the Square, Food for Kids Waterloo Wellington, 2000 Homes Canada Campaign, Junior Achievement, and Big Brothers and Sisters. With over 2 decades of community involvement and a strong background in communications, I am uniquely positioned to be an active, fair voice for the constituents of Ward 4. My platform, I'm committed but not limited to the following areas: infrastructure, responsible government, connecting neighborhoods, transportation, and safe and sustainable community. As our neighborhoods change and grow, we must have a planning document in place to ensure city growth at a reasonable pace and protect our communities, trails, parks, and outlying areas. Everyone deserves to live in a community where he or she feels safe, not only in his or her home, but on the street as well. I will work to ensure creative traffic calming solutions are placed where needed. City of Kitchener's transportation demand strategy focuses on providing healthier, more sustainable options for getting around in our community. This strategy is designed to encourage people to walk, bike, or take public transit. ION is expected to be running by the end of 2018, and while GRT has enhanced its routes in Doon South, I will work to make sure that this is done. I believe a connected community creates a better neighborhood. I will demonstrate financial responsibility decision-making at City Hall, and I will listen to community priorities and provide clear communication processes for citizens of Ward 4. Thank you.
Thank you all for those opening remarks. We now enter the question and answer portion of tonight's debate. And the first question, beginning with Florence Carberry, who will have the initial chance to respond. What is the #1 issue facing Ward 4, and how would you address it if elected? So again, Ms. Carberry, you can begin the answer portion.
I think the #1 issue that Ward 4 faces is traffic and development. We are one of the areas in Kitchener that continues to have subdivisions built, and there's a growth in this part of Kitchener. With that comes the problem of moving traffic in and moving traffic out. We also have issues regarding trails and parkland. We have a significant number of trails and parks in our area, but they are not connected. So families who wish to walk or ride their bike sometimes have to go on to the residential roadways, which are a little risky because of the traffic and because of cars parked on the side. Thank you.
And I think there's a couple main issues. One is the student housing around Conestoga College. It's become a major issue in the Lower Dune area, where development has been buying up houses and turning it into multi-unit student houses. Part of that area holds some great heritage homes that have been, neglected because some of them have become student housing. But as Florence said, traffic is a major issue, but the student housing is part of the problem behind that. We've developed these large buildings to accommodate the massive influx of college students without looking at the impact they'll have on traffic around the neighborhood. I feel my background in property management as well as property development, it will be key in making sure the student housing and the future developments of subdivisions are placed in such a way that don't negatively impact our communities.
And Ms. Geary, your #1 priority or issue in Ward 4?
Well, one of the things that I have definitely noticed, and I'm just reiterating, is the traffic, the speeding, the people breaking the laws in the neighborhood. And this is all just part of the expansion of the neighborhood. Our neighborhood has grown by leaps and bounds compared to much of the rest of Kitchener. But one thing that our community members need to recognize is that the people who are the offenders are also our neighbors. So we have to find a way that we could talk to our neighbors. The city does have a wonderful traffic calming program, and I would love to see people in the neighborhood use that program to reach out to their neighbors to help address the issues. Thank you.
And Ms. Michaud, do you have a similar stance, or would you prioritize something else?
I do agree with the traffic calming issues. I think that is high on the list. However, I've kind of go with Wes's choice of the Lower Dune area and Conestoga College. I believe a connected community creates a better neighborhood. The matters between Conestoga College, landlords, and residents of Lower Dune has long been an issue. I will work with the mayor, council, and all parties involved to develop a framework that will work towards resolving issues that have been looming over this neighborhood far too long. It's not just the residents and it's the students. We have to bring the college. Conestoga College has to come to the table this time. This next term, we have to call on Conestoga College. They're bringing the students in. They're making the money off the students' backs, and the students do not have adequate places to live. So that's really high on my agenda.
Final answer to that question to you, Mr. Sadhu.
I agree with the traffic issue we have right now. The college issue, the students, it's just in one part of Dune, not all over. With the development happening, we just need to look ahead and create better roads instead of having single lane going through Dune Mills, or even New Dundee, make double lanes, put speed bumps, and counter that problem before it becomes a problem.
Thank you for those responses. Now we invite the Vice President of the Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce, Art Sinclair, to provide the next question for tonight's debate.
A number of candidates have indicated that more voices in the community have to be heard at council meetings and the decisions that follow. Do you agree that government needs to be more open and transparent?
All right, on the question of transparency, we'll begin the responses with Mr. Hill.
Thank you. Really, the only answer is yes. Of course, government needs to be more transparent. We need to let the citizens know exactly what's going on. We need to have open dialogue to get feedback on how we're spending budget money, how we're doing in the communities. The people who live in the communities are the experts on how they want their part of the city to look and feel. They need to know that we are taking care of them.
And your stance, Ms. Geary?
I am going to agree. The city enlisted Compass Kitchener to do a survey, an environic survey, to talk to the community, to talk to the people, to find out what was important to them. And transparency was right up there on the list. The community members, they wanted to know, where is our tax money going? How does the city communicate that information to the taxpayers? That is something that we can work on together. Thank you.
And Ms. Michaud, how do you respond to the transparency question?
I think that the City of Kitchener is fairly transparent. I think with any political platform, transparency is always an issue. But for this city and this council that stands now, I was at a number of council meetings. You can sit, you can listen, you can go as a delegate if you have questions. They've got a great online form. You can find all the information you want. And your councillor usually returns your call if you have questions. I think we're a pretty lucky, tight-knit community and a council that really cares.
And Mr. Sadu?
I agree with the transparency. It has to be. It's very important to have transparency. It is. I understand that it is available online, but it's, for example, the Pioneer Park area is getting, the ballpark's getting developed. There should be a board out there with the budget, how much is getting allocated and for what purpose.
And
Thank
finally,
you.
Ms. Carberry?
Transparency at municipal government is important. I think also too what residents are asking is for education and better understanding of the processes that council is taking to include citizen engagement and to budget on projects or to tender out for projects. I think that it's important that they feel connected and they are familiar. The City of Kitchener website has a lot of information, and it is sometimes difficult to maneuver around. I have nothing to say bad about Yvonne Fernandez. Anytime that I had to have a question answered regarding what was going on at City, I was always returned with an answer that was acceptable to me, and I think that would be continuing. I agree with Julie and Christine that the city is pretty transparent in what it is doing, but it certainly can improve by making things a little bit easier for the common person.
Thank you for those responses. We move on to the third question of the question and answer portion, where each candidate has 2 minutes to provide their thoughts on the topic, which is now, do you agree with the previous council's decision to use future development charges to help cover, the cost of the Dune Pioneer Park Community Center expansion? And how would you like to see the next council deal with projects that are tendered over budget? And the first answer goes to Ms. Geary.
I'm going to ask you to repeat the question, please. Thank you.
Two-part question again. The first part being, do you agree with the previous council's decision to use future development charges to help cover the cost of the Dune Pioneer Park Community Center expansion? And secondly, how would you like to see the next council deal with the projects that are tendered over budget?
Okay, I'm going to say yes, that I do agree. It needed to get done, so they were looking to the future, and I understand that. What I would like to see in the future, when other developments come up, I'd like to see the tendering process. I'd like to see a fair tendering process across the board, and I would like to see that people, I apologize, the city, we're doing our homework. That's what I want to see. I want to see that our homework is done. How much is that project going to be? To go $500,000 over budget at the 11th hour, I don't find acceptable. In this particular case, the work had to get done. It had to move forward because it was affecting the entire community. But I think for future, this is a good stepping stone to learn from and see where we can make changes for the future. Thank you.
Ms. Michaud, your response to that question. Two-part question.
I was at the delegate meeting actually when that came to be, and I think that the horse had already left the gate, so to speak, when that happened. So yes, I do agree that the funding should be there, but to go out. But I tend to agree with Julie as well that there should be better planning in place. There should be putting things out to tender, and maybe more than one or two. I'm not sure how many went out to tender, but it should be more than there was. That it shouldn't have happened, basically, but it did, and it was far too into the process. I think it would have cost them more to pull back than put the money towards it. So I agree with it.
And Mr. Sadhu, your stance?
I don't agree. There should have been better planning. That's why people, like the consultants, get paid for. There should have been a better budget, and it should have been accounted for. That money was meant for the future use, not today. If we use it today, we'll never catch up. What are we going to do next? The next project comes along, we're going to end up using more future money, and we'll never get out of that hole. Thank you.
And Ms. Carber, your stance?
The Dune Pioneer Park Community Center is right next door to my heart. I understand that, Waterloo Region has been experiencing a lot of growth, a lot of construction, and I think it was inevitable that the tenders were going to come back higher than what the consultants had estimated. I think that council has gone back to the table, and they have made modifications to the design of the community center to make the accommodations for reducing some of that cost. I think it's important to remember that capital projects are put on a timeline, and we often are not. Oftentimes those projects get bumped because there are other things in the community that are of more importance. I'm glad that they did proceed to move forward with the community center expansion, but future development charges would have been put into the pot for capital projects of the future, and this is just something that shouldn't happen, but it did happen, and I'm glad that we did move forward with the expansion.
Thank you for your response. And while we have Mr. Sadhu's response still fresh in our minds, I think Ms. Michaud, you were looking to get a rebuttal in there.
I'd just like to add a little bit what Florence said, that the Dune Community Center has long been in need of development and expansion. This ward has grown exponentially in the last 8 years. So had we have held back on that, and as you say, Sasha, that the funds would go somewhere else, what Florence said, yes, they would go to the center, but it probably would have even cost us more in the end. So that's what I wanted to say. I think it's a good thing that we did it.
And Sasha, any thoughts on that in response, or do you feel comfortable with your initial response there?
I feel comfortable with it.
Fair enough. Mr. Hill, you have the final word on this topic.
Definitely, I think that it is absolutely imperative that we spent that money in the 11th hour, and it came from future development. That community center was built at a time when our ward was so much smaller. It is now servicing way more than it was ever designed to do. It was either we spend the money now to redevelop that one, or in 5 years we were going to have to build another community center. So definitely I'm in favor of them spending the money on it. I think one of the problems in our city is we have locked down who can actually tender for jobs. We have such a small pool of built or contractors vying for these jobs that they decide the price. It's no longer the city who's going, well, I've got this, it needs to be under this price. So I think if we open that up to more qualified contractors, we will be able to keep our prices lower.
Mr. Sadhu,
I just want to point out, like, one way or the other, it's a growing community, and it's rapidly growing compared to the rest of the wards. We will need another community center within the next 5 years.
All right, on that point, we have to move on to our next question, which comes again from Art Sinclair, Vice President of the KW Chamber of Commerce.
Another issue that all municipalities across Ontario and Canada have been facing for the last number of years has been low-income housing support. It's been an issue in Waterloo Region and, as I mentioned, across Ontario. What would you propose to increase the number of low-income housing units in your municipality?
All right, the first crack at that response, Ms. Michaud.
Sure. Everyone deserves a right to live with a roof over their head and meals on the table. That's a basic necessity of life. It's not unique to our city. Like low-income housing is a problem in many cities. We must continue to work at all government levels to find ways to relieve some of the financial pressure that young people are experiencing today. I'm committed to working with the Mayor and Regional Council on these issues. With regards to development, right now I think in the city, the developers downtown, they have to have X amount of sites for affordable apartments and whatnot, and I think that could be something that we could look at Ward 4. But I think our affordable housing is more prominent with our students at Conestoga College than it is with the general population. I remember the beginning of this year, there were students knocking on doors looking for places to live because they couldn't afford a place. These were international students, by the way. So there is a lot to do with affordable housing in our ward.
And on that topic, Mr. Sidhu.
I believe that the city itself is doing a really good job with mandating the developers to have affordable housing, which we definitely need. In my profession, I've come across, even if you're not a student, first of all, they're renting, and if you're buying, the income to mortgage ratio is way out of control. So we need, even in this area, because it's a growing community, we have to get the developers to work with us, the government to work with us, so we can create affordable housing, because there's a lot of young families that are moving into this area, and they need the help that they can get. Thank you.
Ms. Carberry.
Housing co-ops are affordable housing. The province of Ontario hasn't built affordable housing since the early 1990s. The National Housing Strategy from the federal government was approved last November, and there's federal government monies allocated for housing Canadians. Low-income housing, families in our region are on a waiting list. There's over 4,000 families waiting for units that are affordable. There's an inclusionary zoning from the province of Ontario whereby developers are to allocate one affordable housing per 10 units that are built. I see in the future the need for there being more affordable housing built in our community, not only for rentals to alleviate the waiting list for low-income households, but also for starter homes for our young community members leaving home or graduating from school. I think that it shouldn't be a financial burden to own your first house, but it is. And it's important that our community recognize the need to build more units that are affordable. Thank you.
And Mr. Hill, how do you react to affordable housing development in the ward?
I think we have a housing crisis in KW. The availability of housing of all levels, especially affordable and geared to income housing, does not meet the demand. As was just said, the wait list in December for geared to income housing was just over 4,100 people and families. What we don't recognize is that that wait can then become much longer for some as they are bumped back further on the list for emergency situations that get put up to the top. The city needs to address ways to increase the supply, whether that's looking at repurposing old use land that may not be currently set up as a residential development. In terms of geared to income, the city and Drula Holdings just did an amazing job where in planning, instead of donating a sum of money to low income or geared to income housing, Drula actually, or they came to an agreement where Drula would donate 10 units for no less than 5 years, which equates to a whole lot more for the affordable housing. And through more partnerships like that and more agreements like that, we can definitely bring that wait list way down.
Now, you've had a chance to hear all the other candidates, Ms. Geary. Do you agree or disagree with what they're saying?
We live in such a diverse community. We have so many different builders and housing facilities. We have detached, we have semis, a few semis, and lots of towns. I would love to see more quads coming in. We do need affordable housing. We need to work, the city needs to work with the college. Yes, they can do this if they also increase into our subdivision accessibility. They could move student housing into different parts of the city if there's more accessibility, specifically into Doon and the surround. Right now, transit GRT has come into our subdivision. If there was more affordable housing and transit into our subdivision, we could probably help alleviate that. There is a way to work it out. We just need the city and the college to work together, and we could address the student issue as well as the low-cost housing issue. There is a way to do it. We just need to work together on it. Thank you.
Thank you for those responses. Now, my next question actually continues on the theme of development, and specifically Ward 4 has a unique combination of existing heritage neighborhoods and rapidly expanding new development areas. So if elected, how would you approach issues concerning heritage preservation? And Mr. Sidhu, the first response goes to you.
I can understand why. It's an interesting question, and I've actually met people that have expressed that concern to me. I understand why residents are concerned. Development in this area is happening. Anywhere along 401, it's going to happen. You got one of the biggest colleges right next door. You can't, its development's going to happen. The best case scenario, what we can do is preserve the heritage buildings or work around them so we can have that heritage and the green space preserved and keep it intact. Thank you.
Ms. Carberry?
One of the unique qualities about the Doon Pioneer Park area is that we do have the Upper Doon Heritage District along the old Doon Village Road. There are many unique century homes that people enjoy, and in areas of Lower Doon there are also heritage buildings and parks and cemeteries that are significant to our area. I'm proud that we have heritage features in our community, and I know that development that we are undergoing as part of the last frontier of Kitchener does have to make consideration for some of the remaining heritage housing and land that we have around here. I expect that developers would take that into consideration and city would support ensuring the preservation of the heritage areas. Thank you.
And your approach to heritage preservation, Mr. Hill?
Having one of the 4 heritage districts in our ward is amazing. We do have some lovely homes in both Upper and Lower Doon. But Lower Doon had been neglected by City Council, even though they've actually requested over and over again to get that heritage designation. That allowed for development that maybe shouldn't have happened. I know on Upper Doon there were mistakes. There were things that slipped through, and a house or two that shouldn't have been allowed to be built on a heritage site was. I think the city needs to give the full support that we can towards the Heritage Council so they can properly assess what needs to be done and what needs to be allowed. Property tax rebates possibly for heritage land owners so they can continue to upkeep because as we know we do charge property tax on the proposed value of land, whereas some of these have giant parcels of land that they can't use because they can't do anything with. We definitely need to maintain those 2 areas of heritage designation and make sure we don't end up with eyesore developments on them.
And your feedback, Ms. Geary?
Thank you. I love the heritage in Doon. When I first moved here, that was the one thing that really drew me to love the community, to walk around and to see little bits of history right in front of me. That's a privilege. So for me, preserving heritage is very important. We need to preserve our heritage. We have to save our past, but still look to the future. The future is going to happen. The past is in the past, but there has to be a balance there somewhere. Heritage rules, in my opinion, if there is a heritage designation, the designation shouldn't change from one year to the next to the next. We still need to maintain the heritage designation, but we still have to be able to work on our future, and we still need to thrive as a community. There has to be a balance, past and future. Thank you.
And how would you improve heritage preservation, Ms. Michaud?
Having lived in Kitchener all my life, I've seen heritage go south. We'll cite the City Hall as an example. That's a real sore spot for a lot of people who are from here. So I admire our Heritage Committee in Doon, and I admire all the homes that are there. I do agree that for heritage designation, it should stay as designated. It should not change as time goes on. If someone buys a property, it's heritage designated, they should not be able to sever it and sell it into something else. We have to protect this just as we have to protect the countryside line. It falls hand in hand. We've got an amazing community, and there's plenty of room for growth, but we have to maintain our heritage as well.
Thank you for those responses. We turn to our attention once more to Art Sinclair.
The recent provincial election focused on two-way, all-day GO train service, which is widely supported throughout the region of Waterloo. What other transit and transportation projects should the cities and the region of Waterloo be working on?
Certainly a hot topic issue here across the region, but to start things off with responses, Ms. Carberry.
Transportation in the city of Kitchener and the region of Waterloo is important for all residents. The new Ion train will be running soon. I have seen it on the tracks. And there has been changes to the bus routes and the scheduling of the bus routes so that when people are moving around, they have better connections to their next bus. What I would like to see is more consideration for improved trails and bike paths so that people who are looking at not taking their car would be able to get to where they're going using the bike paths or walking, and being able to connect to the buses when they need to from wherever in the city. Thank you.
And Mr. Hill, the transportation question goes to you.
I see Kitchener Transit has come a long way over the last few years, but we still have a long way to go before it's perfect. We need to constantly be looking at the bus routes to ensure that there aren't missed areas. There are giant pieces of our city that people can't get to via public transportation. In a lot of spots, it doesn't run late enough at night for people who are using public transportation to get to or from work if they work an evening shift. There was a recent study done by Share the Road, which is an advocacy group at Queen's Park, that found that 5% or 650,000 Ontarians ride their bicycles daily for fun or exercise, or as their main transportation. I think we need to ensure that we are making it as easy for people to ride their bikes to get to public transportation. The trails need to be maintained better. I think we need to look at best practices from around the world in this situation. The Netherlands has just done new bike paths where they've actually used recycled plastic to make the bike path. I think if we can look at combining these different things, we can make our city great where people can ride their bikes to catch a bus or to catch the Ion train, and we will eventually get to a point where less people are using the vehicles and more are taking public transportation.
And how would you further improve transit, Ms. Geary?
Transit is a hot spot in our community, especially around where I live. We have many single-car families who need access to the rest of the city. We have many 3, 4, 5-car families who have vehicles that they do because they can't access transportation. We have seniors trapped in their homes. They're not able to go anywhere. We have teens that are working on getting jobs, but they can't get there without a chauffeur. We have people with different needs and abilities that need to be able to access the city, not just 5 days a week during peak time, but 7 days a week, also early in the morning and later in the evenings. I would love GRT to work with the city and to find out what the needs of the people are. They have come a long way since I first moved into the community, and I really think that we could do better. Thank you.
And to Ms. Geary's point, what do people need from transit in the city, Ms. Michaud? How can we improve?
We need better GRT, that's for sure. I'm a huge proponent of ION and two-way all-day go. I think it's awesome. The way our city's growing, we have to be connected to Toronto and the other outlying areas. With regards to Ward 4, GRT is not up to par where it should be. Kids, anybody riding the bus cannot get a bus after, I think it's midnight, to catch ION. ION's going to be starting on December of 2018, and these buses have to be running out here because we've got a large audience to catch them. I think that we also need to continue to grow our trails and our bike lanes because of the City of Kitchener's transportation demand strategy. They want people to walk, bike, and take the bus. So the bus goes on GRT. So I would work with the Mayor, Council, and Regional Council and GRT to make that happen.
And what ideas can you bring to the transit conversation, Mr. Sadhu?
I agree with my colleagues on everything they've said. We do need more bike lanes and trails. It's a good thing that we have GO Train and ION coming, but as for Ward 4, we definitely need better GRT. There's a lot of students that need transportation, and it's just we're lacking in that department. I will work with the community and the city, and we would make it happen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for those responses. We've talked briefly about the well-being of citizens in the ward and across Waterloo Region, but would you support the development of a safe injection site in Kitchener? And if so, where would you like to see it located, specifically in Ward 4? And Mr. Hill, you have the first response.
Well, that's been a touchy subject at every debate. As soon as the subject of a safe injection or safe consumption site comes up, the immediate knee-jerk response from everyone in the community is not in my backyard. But then we're the first to say, but I need you to clean up these needles along the trails. I need you to look after this. I would definitely support a safe injection site as long as it incorporates all the wraparound needs that go along with that. If there is not an addiction specialist and a mental health counselor on site, then the safe injection site is going to fall flat. If we can't find a suitable spot for it, we should look at other communities throughout Ontario and Canada that are now trying out the mobile safe injection sites. That does away with the entire not in my backyard argument. If we had a service that was available and moved a couple times a day to different spots throughout our region, we would be able to help so many more people. People who are either just looking to keep the place clean or get off drugs on their own. These people are coming to these sites because they want help. We need to help them. Thank you.
And where do you stand with your opponent, Ms. Geary?
I almost think this is a trick question, and I say that because I believe that safe injection sites is a regional issue and not a municipal. But that being said, how I feel about them, yes, the first reaction is knee-jerk, not in my backyard. But I will tell you that I have a good friend who's a police officer in a very rough neighborhood in Rexdale, and he actually convinced me on the benefits of safe injection sites. It saves lives. Bottom line, it saves lives. It also keeps the needles out of the bushes. That being said, I don't have an answer. Where in Ward 4, if we were to have a safe injection site in Ward 4, where would it be? I don't know at this moment, but I would educate myself. I would talk to the people in power that could educate me more on where would be a good place. I think that's my answer. Thank you.
Michelle, your response to that two-part question?
If Ward 4 had some agencies, social service agencies surrounding it that could accommodate the addicts that would use the safe injection site, I would say sure, it should be in Ward 4, but we don't. So where it should be is in the downtown area. I worked downtown Kitchener for 3 years as a community relations manager for the BIA. I'm very familiar with addicts and the problem with addiction and the naloxone doses you have to give them to save their lives. And I know people die from this, and it is not just a regional issue or a city issue, it's a human rights issue. And something should be done, whether it goes right to the province. Well, actually it did go to the province, but the province needs to step up and support these safe injection sites because they are important. People will die. But I also want to note that this is just a Band-Aid. This is not going to solve the problem of mental health, addiction, homelessness. It all envelopes. It's such a polarizing issue in our region and in this country.
For or against injection sites, Mr. Sadhu?
There's no easy answer to it. I am I'm for it, but this is something that you have to discuss with the community, what they want, and you got to educate them. For one, I would also like to meet up with the city council and have them educate me on why it should go in Dune South or Ward 4. At the same time, you also need to educate the community on why it's needed and take their feedback to the city and come to some sort of reasonable point. I wouldn't want to see mobile sites. I don't think they would work, because if it's an addiction, you can't control what time the mobile sites come down your area. And at the same time, I don't want to see no needles around parks where children play. If I was to see one, obviously I know better, but you don't want to risk your child's life. So I think if the community is educated on this, they would step forward and help out. Thank you.
And on this hot topic issue, Ms. Carberry, your final response.
I have received training to administer the antidote for opioid overdose victims, since overdose can happen anywhere. The opioid crisis is happening across Canada, and many cities are struggling for solutions. Supportive injection sites provide health services remotely and serve the needs of addicts, persons with mental health illnesses, homelessness, or those with unstable housing, street youth, and others who are marginalized and vulnerable. Doing nothing is not an option. The region of Waterloo supports safe injection sites, and as a society, we need to take action to prevent increases of overdose and help those in need get off the streets and get help. This is a multifaceted issue. I know that there's a need for not only having safe injection sites, but also having resources available not only for the victims of or the addicts. It also needs resources that help keep the community clean so that they are safe and the community is not at risk. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, just heads up to everyone involved. We do have a limited amount of time remaining, but we do want to get one more question in here. First from Mr. Art Sinclair.
Historically, about 30% of eligible voters in Waterloo Region or any other city in Ontario actually show up at the polls on election day. Is this lack of engagement a concern, and how can municipal governments respond?
So 1 minute for each candidate to provide a response to that question. Ms. Geary, to begin.
Education. We need to start right at the college level. Talk to Conestoga students. The city needs to work with the college right from ground level. Get the students involved and let them know their vote matters. Thank you.
Ms. Michaud, your approach.
I agree with Julie. Education certainly is key. I think there's a bit of a transition going on with the demographics. We have elderly people who are diehards and come to vote, and that population is kind of waning, getting smaller, and we've got the younger generation coming up. When I went door to door, I had people ask me, what party are you running for? Provincial, federal? Like, they didn't have a clue. So education is absolutely a necessity, and people just have to understand. Like, it's such a huge privilege to be able to vote, whether it's municipal or federal or provincial. But municipal government is the most important level of government. It starts right at your kitchen table. It's important to you, so I encourage everyone to get out and vote.
How have you been engaging voters and trying to get them out to vote, Mr. Sidhu?
I've been door knocking, trying to get them to come out. I've given them a pamphlet, told them. Most of them asked me, like, where is the voting happening? For that, yes, I know, I understand it's on the website, but like my colleague said here, there's a lot of seniors, they don't see it. If we're allowed to put our own boards outside on regional roads, there should be a board out there telling them where the voting's happening this year, so they see it clearly. They don't. Some of the residents can't use internet, and at the same time, PRs, permanent residents aren't allowed to, and we have a lot of permanent residents in this community, and they're not allowed to vote. Thank you.
And Ms. Carberry, how would you increase voter engagement?
That's a very difficult question to answer. The Municipal Affairs and Housing made an amendment to the Elections Act in 2016, allowing municipalities to have ranked voting. I think that if the region of Waterloo or if the City of Kitchener and the community supports ranked voting. I think that that may engage more of the voters because they would have the opportunity to have 3 choices in their selection. Thank you.
Final word to you, Mr. Hill.
I think the problem with municipal elections is people are confused. There's so many people that we have to vote for on that ballot. People don't know what they're voting for, so a lot of people just ignore it. So again, like has already been said, education, we need to let people know what they're voting for, why their vote matters. And as the permanent residents that are not allowed to vote, they need to, I think we should look at possibly allowing them to vote because they're as much a part of this city as anyone else and their voice does matter. I feel if they were allowed to vote, turnout would be much higher. Because they have felt neglected for so long, I think they would be running out to the polls to get their say.
Thank you for those responses once more. So that does conclude the question and answer portion of tonight's debate. We now move on to closing remarks. Each candidate will now have the opportunity to provide a 2-minute closing statement, and we will begin with Ms. Michaud.
Kitchener has that unique, supportive, inclusive quality not found in many cities its size. I'm passionate about all this city has to offer. Your concerns about your community matter, and I will be your voice at council. Your tax dollars count, and I'll work to ensure roads, infrastructure, parks, trails are looked after. I'll support investments geared towards economic growth, a better quality of life, and improved level of services to you. A healthy community starts with healthy neighborhoods. I'm passionate about the great neighborhoods where people feel safe, have a sense of belonging, and are connected. I'm a strong supporter for the countryside line and protecting our heritage. Having grown up in the region, I've witnessed tremendous growth and at times at enormous cost, not just financially, but preserving our history as well. I'm pleased this city and the region have recognized the innovative planning tool that has literally reversed the percentage of building growth in our outlying areas. About a decade ago, over 50% of the growth was happening borders of our cities. Today, thanks to the innovative planning tools Hold the Line, we are on the right path to continue to welcome newcomers to our region while protecting over $500 million agriculture sector that sits right on the edge of our cities. I also want us to be a vibrant city with great facilities, events, festivals, celebrations, and top-notch education institutions, and I believe we are accomplishing this. I'm open to change, new ideas, and suggestions. Elect Christine Michaud to represent you on City Council. I will listen, learn, reach a consensus, work together, and collaborate for the best possible outcome. On October 22nd, vote. It's a privilege denied to many. Thanks.
Thank you. Candidate Julie Geary.
What is my objective? To make our community members feel like they are in a neighborhood which is inclusive and connected, increasing the sense of open communications, safety, and belonging. How do I think I can accomplish this? I can't, but we can. We can work on programs to keep our children and families safe. We can work on community engagement, transparency, and communications. We can support our local small businesses, which are our friends, neighbors, as well as attracting new businesses. We can work on being responsible and sustainable in our development growth. We can work on protecting our parks, trails, farms, arts, and history. We can work on improving public transit options to make our community more accessible for all. We can work together and ensure our community is looked after and our tax dollars are being spent wisely. I have been listening to my online group as well as everyone I come face to face with. And I work daily to engage the members that I meet every day. And I will continue to listen to the growing needs of our community. What I ask of them right now is, who has your best interests at heart? I would like to help you. HelpJulieHelpYou.ca. Thank you.
Candidate Wes Hill.
After years of owning a small business in our ward, as well as property management and development, I think I'm uniquely situated as I have become or my restaurant has become a destination of people who come and they just want to talk. They share their concerns, what they want to see of our neighborhood. They tell me everything that's going on from their kids' day at school to the traffic on the way home. I feel our ward is an amazing place to live. Of all the places I could live in this world, this is where I chose to come back to every time. I feel we've all done a great job of explaining why we think you should vote for us. And I'm going to leave it at that. I hope I have done a great job explaining why you should vote for me. On October 22nd, vote Wes Hill. Thank you.
And candidate Florence Carberry.
Thank you, Dan and Art Sinclair from the Chamber of Commerce and Rogers TV for the debate tonight. Tonight in the debate, we covered a number of important issues that are affecting Ward 4 as well as all of Kitchener. Low-income housing, affordable housing, parks, trails, development, transportation needs, safe injection sites. These are all important issues that your council will be looking at in the next 30 days. I am Florence Carberry, and as council for Ward 4, I will continue to build relationships with our community and be your voice at Kitchener Council. Thank you.
And Mr. Sasha Sadhu.
Thank you, Dan. First off, I want to thank all of you for listening tonight. We're witnessing something beautiful right now in Kitchener. Some of our communities are growing at a rapid pace, some faster than others. We need to keep up with this growth. This can only be accomplished with a smart, sustainable growth, a vision for the future. I want to listen and be your voice. When it comes to meeting the diverse needs of our expanding community, I believe I have the passion and the drive to fight for our community. For more information, please visit my website on sashasadu.kitchener.com. You can reach out to me at any time for questions and input. I would love to hear from you, and I really look forward to speaking with more residents of Ward 4 in the coming weeks. Your voice needs to be heard, so please come out and vote on October 22nd so we can bring forward changes in our community that are needed. I just want to wish good luck to all candidates, and I want to fight for your fair share. Thank you.
Thank you to all the Ward 4 candidates for participating in today's debate. Make sure to watch Rogers TV on the night of October the 22nd for up-to-the-minute local results. On behalf of the volunteer Rogers TV production team, producer David Aguirre, I'm Dan Polishchuk. Thanks again for watching.